Chloe and Oliver Owen were both reborn. In their previous life, he had personally come to the orphanage to bring her home and later married her. The three of them had loved each other deeply, staying together until their hair turned gray. In this life, however, when the Owen parents waved for her to come over just like in the past, the teenage Oliver spoke up to stop them. "Mom, Dad, I don't want her anymore. I want this girl to be my little sister." He grabbed the hand of the girl standing next to Chloe, adopted daughter of the Vance family, who had died prematurely in their previous life. His eyes were icy cold as he looked at her. "You stole Lily's life and caused her to die a tragic death. But in this life, it's your turn to taste the hell she went through." Hey everyone! Betrayed in her second life, our lead didn't beg. She walked away and built her own empire. Let's dive into her epic comeback. In that moment, Chloe understood everything. It turned out that this time, he wanted to play the dragon-slaying hero off to save the princess. "Do you want to come with me?" Looking at the woman from the Vance family standing in front of her, and then glancing back at the retreating figure of the man who had stood by her side for over a decade as he walked away without hesitation, hand in hand with that other girl, Chloe nodded. It was for the best. In this life, she also wanted to live a different way. When Chloe walked out of the orphanage, the Owen family still hadn't left. The moment he saw her, Oliver immediately tensed up. He hurriedly pushed the other girl into the car, then turned to Chloe and growled, "Chloe Owen, even if you get on your knees and beg me, I won't take you with us. The Owen family doesn't welcome you. A thief like you belongs in that man-eating Vance household." He gave her a hard shove, then slammed the car door shut with a loud bang. Chloe stumbled and nearly fell. Before she could even steady herself, the Owen family's convoy had already sped off out of sight. The wind whipped the exhaust fumes and dust straight into her face, making it almost impossible to keep her eyes open. A black Maybach slowly pulled up in front of her. The car window rolled down, revealing Mrs. Vance's cold face. "Do you want to go to the Owen family?" She shook her head. "The Vance family is perfectly fine." The woman paused for a moment, giving her a mild glance. "What is your name?" Chloe answered softly, "Chloe. From now on, you will be called Chloe Vance." Her voice was curt, but Chloe clearly understood the underlying meaning. She quickly opened the car door, got in, and said obediently, "Yes, Mother." Mrs. Vance raised an eyebrow slightly, but didn't reply. She merely leaned back against her seat and closed her eyes to rest. Chloe knew better than to say anything else. The car drove into the Vance family estate. Chloe followed her into the house, watching as she set her purse down and casually looked up as if speaking to someone. "Vincent, this is your new little sister, Chloe Vance." Chloe froze. Instinctively, she looked up, and her eyes landed on a teenage boy leaning against the second-floor railing. His face was even more handsome than Oliver's, delicate to an almost excessive degree. She didn't know how long he had been standing there watching. She was a little surprised. Was this really what the young master of the Vance family looked like? In her previous life, not long after she was adopted into the Owen family, Vincent had been sent abroad by his family. The next time she saw him was many years later. By then, he had already taken over the Vance family, but his face had been ruined. Because of his terrifying appearance and ruthless, bloodthirsty tactics, the business world had given him the moniker Vincent the Reaper. Chloe's eyes curved into a smile. "Hi. Hello, brother." But Vincent seemed not to hear her. He remained leaning against the railing, his expression distant and cold. "Don't mind him. He doesn't like to talk. Mrs. Vance called a maid over to show Chloe around and help her get accustomed to her new environment, then walked away. As Chloe followed the maid and was about to walk out the door, for some unknown reason, she turned her head back. Her gaze unexpectedly met the teenage boy's eyes, which were as dead and silent as a graveyard. Her heart gave a slight tremble. Before a smile could even bloom on her face, Vincent had already withdrawn his gaze, turning around and walking into his room. It had been over a month since Chloe was brought to the Vance family home. Other than the first day at the orphanage, Chloe had never seen Mrs. Vance again. On the contrary, she and Vincent would occasionally cross paths at the dining table. Every time that happened, she would sweetly call out, "Brother." But he never responded. Chloe didn't mind, though, because she was very busy, very, very busy. Although Mrs. Vance didn't make an appearance, the study schedule she had arranged for Chloe was packed tight. Etiquette, dance, horseback riding. Since it was summer vacation, she had classes every day from morning to night, so busy, her feet barely touched the ground. Even Martha, the housekeeper, couldn't hide the pity in her eyes when she saw Chloe covered in bruises from her horseback riding lessons. "Miss, why don't you say something to the madam and take a day off today?" Chloe slipped into her shoes and shook her head. "There's no need." The day she was brought to the Vance household, Mrs. Vance had told her that the children of the Vance family must grow up to be the most elite, even if they were only adopted. The young lady of the Owen family next door doesn't have to work this hard. Martha sighed, handing Chloe her backpack. It was so lively over there this morning. I heard the whole family is preparing to travel abroad for summer vacation. Chloe knew Martha said that to defend her, feeling sorry that she wasn't getting to enjoy the innocent joys of her age. She stood up and took the backpack. Martha, I'm not tired. I want to learn. Perhaps in the eyes of others, the Vance household was a living hell, but it wasn't like that for her. The Vance family was an old money aristocracy. The foundation and resources they held were something the newly rich Owen family couldn't possibly compare to. Here, she could grow into a better person. Even though the Vance family's internal dynamics were complicated, the relatives didn't acknowledge her. The madam was cold and strict, and Vincent was indifferent and distant. She was lost in thought when a snow-white cat suddenly darted to her feet. Right after came a clear, slightly petulant girl's voice. Snowball, you've got the wrong person. Come back here. Oliver, help me get Snowball back, you silly thing. Chloe picked up the cat and stood up. Her eyes met the teenage boy walking toward them, his face full of tender doting. It was Oliver Owen. As soon as Oliver saw her, the smile on his face instantly froze, his eyes filling with disgust. You followed us all the way here? You really are like a lingering ghost. He sneered, not hiding his malice at all. Don't tell me you thought waiting here would make me soften my heart? Keep dreaming. Chloe! Lily Owen's delighted voice cut in, interrupting him. She lifted her princess dress and ran up to her, smiling as she said, It's so great! I didn't expect to see you here after leaving the orphanage. Is that car waiting for you? Lily took the cat back, looking curiously at the car parked not far behind Chloe. With just one glance, her face instantly turned pale. Oh my God! Were you really adopted by the Vance family next door? Chloe was about to answer when she accidentally caught sight of a key pendant hanging from Lily's collar. Her gaze faltered. Lily noticed her stare and unnaturally raised her hand to cover the pendant. Chloe pretended not to see it and nodded. Yeah, the Vance family. So you have the Vance surname now? Your name is Chloe Vance? Chloe glanced at Oliver, who, having misunderstood the situation earlier, now looked full of embarrassment. Yeah. Are the people in the Vance family really scary? I heard the young master of the Vance family has an illness and is mute, is that true? Lily pointed mysteriously toward the Vance household, asking rapidly. Chloe frowned. She was just about to retort when Lily didn't give her a chance to speak. Chloe, are you learning archery? She tilted her head, assessing the equestrian and archery outfit Chloe was wearing. Yeah, I have things to do. Chloe was trying to think of an excuse to leave when Oliver cut in with deep impatience. Lily, why waste your breath on this kind of person? Let's go. Lily Owen let out an "oh" and stuck her tongue out playfully. Don't mind him, Chloe. My brother isn't usually like this. He's very gentle. I don't know what's wrong with him today. Brother, wait for me. She lifted her dress and chased after him. Chloe stood watching for a second before turning to leave. Behind her, the siblings' conversation drifted into her ears on the wind. Brother, the Vance family is too strict. Chloe is the same age as me, but she has to study every day. I saw she was covered in bruises from falling. It's so pitiful. What's the use of a girl learning all those things? Some people just aren't destined to enjoy a good life. In this life, our Lily just needs to be as pretty as a princess, and that's enough. The daughters of the Owen family don't need to suffer like that. Mom, Dad, and you are the best. Suffer? Was it really suffering? So, in the eyes of the Owen family, putting in effort was considered suffering. Chloe's lips curled up slightly. In her previous life, the Owen parents had indeed doted on her, but they had never agreed to let her learn any skills. When she wanted to learn horseback riding and archery, they objected. How can you? What if you bleed and leave a scar? How will you get married in the future? Once, when she was being followed, she wanted to learn martial arts for self-defense, but they also refused. Why would a girl of status learn such things? The Owen family has bodyguards. No one will dare bully you. Later on, when she wanted to study business and finance, they still said, why study so much? Our Owen family has your brother, and that's enough. On the surface, it was boundless pampering, but in reality, they were raising her to be a fragile daughter flower, only knowing how to cling to others. Meanwhile, Mrs. Vance had told her that the members of the Vance family had to learn, try, and fight for everything. Summer vacation flashed by, and the first day of school arrived very quickly. Mrs. Vance had early on transferred her to the same international school as Vincent. This was also the school that she and Oliver had attended in their previous life. On the first day of school, Chloe sat waiting in the car very early. When Vincent opened the car door, she smiled and greeted him. Hi, brother. Mother said we'll be calling to school together from now on. His movements paused for a second before he silently sat down in the seat furthest away from her. On the second day, she did the same thing. On the third day, she continued. This went on into the fourth morning and dragged on for 2 whole months. Then, she suddenly noticed that even though Vincent never responded to her, sometimes when she was late for breakfast and hurriedly ran out the front gates, she would see him standing by the car with his backpack, waiting for her. She hid her surprise, her lips curling into a smile. "You're really nice." Every time that happened, he would give her a mild glance as usual, not saying a word, then turn and get into the car. The only difference was that this time, he stepped into the car with his right foot first. Chloe's lips curled up slightly. It was indeed a very good change. One day after school, she waited for a long time at the academic building, but Vincent still didn't come out. She tried calling, but couldn't reach him. While she was anxiously waiting, a thought flashed through her mind. She suddenly remembered that in her previous life, right around this time, a major incident had happened outside the school gates. Back then, she had been buried in her studies, trying to catch up with the curriculum at the international school. She faintly heard her classmates gossiping that someone had come to cause trouble for the Vance family, and there were rumors that something had happened to the Vance children. Many years later, she had coincidentally overheard people mention that the head of the Vance family, Vincent, had his face maliciously ruined when he was in high school. Could it be today? This was bad. There was no time. Chloe snapped back to her senses and quickly texted the driver, instructing him that if he didn't see her at the school gates, he should immediately come in to look for them. Then, she sprinted toward the alley behind the school. "Vincent, please don't let anything happen to you." When she arrived, Vincent was being cornered against a wall by several thugs. "Haha, the young master of the Vance family really is a mute, huh? He doesn't make a single sound no matter how much you beat him. A mute can't snitch anyway. Are you scared the Vance family will come looking for trouble? Damn it, this little punk still dares to glare at me." Among them was a guy who looked like a student. He spat on the ground, pulled out a box cutter, and swung it straight toward Vincent's face. Vincent's face. Chloe's heart tightened. Out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a baseball bat lying on the ground. She took a deep breath to encourage herself, then yelled at the top of her lungs and dashed out. "I've already called the cops." She charged into the middle of the crowd, swinging the bat wildly. At this moment, she couldn't help but feel lucky that she had been seriously training her physical stamina recently. The thugs were caught off guard, and were momentarily scattered by her attack. Coupled with her claim about calling the police, they started to hesitate and back off. "Damn it, consider this kid lucky." The guys cursed as they walked away. Seeing them get far enough away, Chloe hurriedly ran over to check on Vincent's condition. There was still a bloody gash sliced across his face, but luckily, it wasn't deep. He also had wounds all over his arms and legs. Brother, hang in there a little longer, I'll take you home." She helped him stand up and was about to leave. But suddenly, a tremendous force kicked her, sending her falling face first onto the ground. "Damn it, Tommy, I told you this little brat was lying. Called the cops, my ass." A guy spat. A tiny little brat, and she already knows how to trick people. A mute and a liar, truly a match made in heaven, ha ha ha. The one called Tommy cursed angrily without stopping, raining kick after kick onto her back. It hurt so much that Chloe had to curl up into a ball, but her eyes met Vincent's panicked gaze. Her lips trembled, but she still forced a smile and softly reassured him. "Brother, don't be scared." His eyes suddenly froze. She shielded his body, refusing to back down even a single step. The punches from behind rained down even more furiously. Just as the next kick was about to land, Vincent, who had been completely unresisting all this time, suddenly moved. He lunged at the person standing closest to her, biting down hard on his arm like a madman. His unexpected and rebellious behavior made Tommy's gang freeze for a few seconds. But how could he fight off so many people alone? He was still pinned to the ground, as vicious punches pounded against his head and chest. Someone even pulled out an iron pipe. Could the ending still not be changed? Just as Chloe's heart filled with despair, the sound of talking and footsteps echoed from the mouth of the alley. Was it the driver arriving? She tried her best to open her eyes and look in that direction. A pair of white sneakers appeared in her line of sight. The owner of the shoes stood backlit at the entrance of the alley. Tommy and his thugs immediately glared fiercely in that direction. "What are you looking at, kid? This wasn't the driver?" Chloe tried her hardest to widen her eyes, wanting to see clearly who had just arrived, but blood blurred her vision. No matter what, she couldn't see clearly. Right at that moment, someone called out to him from afar. "Oliver, why are you just standing there? Let's go. The strawberry cake shop is over here." The person stayed silent for a moment. "Yeah, I'm coming right now." Chloe blinked her dry, burning eyes and weakly whispered, brother. The person's footsteps paused, but in the end, he didn't turn his head. He held the girl's hand and slowly walked away. The girl couldn't contain her curiosity and poked her head in to peek down the alley. She immediately screamed in fear. "Ah, Oliver, there seems to be someone injured over there. Do you see them?" The very next second, her eyes were covered. "Don't look, it's dirty." Oliver's gentle voice came from far away. Chloe seemed to also hear him whisper, "Lily, in this life, I found you earlier. I will protect your innocence. You won't have to suffer the Vance family's torment and end your life so abruptly ever again." In her daze, Chloe recalled her previous life. When Oliver was on his deathbed, he had repeatedly muttered, "It's all my fault. If only I had found you earlier." At the time, she thought he was talking about the accident years ago when she had a miscarriage and could never have children again. She had choked back sobs to comfort him. "Old man, in our next life, we still have to be together. We'll eventually have children." It turned out that his regrets in his past life had never had anything to do with her. The thing he had always agonized over was that, on that day, he had been by her side, so he couldn't save Lily in time. Therefore, in this life, he chose to keep her by his side, protecting her flawlessly. It turned out he didn't come here today to save her. He merely wanted to see with his own eyes how a thief like her, after taking the place of his precious white moonlight, would be trampled so miserably. But in her previous life, Chloe had vaguely heard her classmates say that after the two Vance children ran into trouble, Vincent was sent abroad. Meanwhile, Lily was not allowed to follow him, and her treatment within the Vance family was far worse than before. A female classmate who knew the inside story had once discreetly mentioned that on that day, she had seen Lily abandon Vincent. Vincent had risked his life to protect her, but when she ran away, she didn't even look back once. Yet Oliver seemed to firmly believe that his precious white lotus was the victim. Ha! Did Oliver really think his white moonlight was that pure? Chloe let out a soft chuckle, reached up to wipe her eyes, and then forced herself up. She desperately hugged the leg of one of the thugs. Even as he kicked and cursed at her, she refused to let go. "Don't hit my brother." She held on until her very last ounce of strength was depleted, and the world before her eyes sank completely into darkness. When Chloe woke up, there was a fluffy head slumped by the side of the bed. The pungent smell of antiseptic assaulted her nose, and she realized she was in the hospital. It seemed the driver had arrived with help in time. She tried to sit up. Perhaps because her movements were a bit loud, she woke Vincent up. He opened his beautiful eyes, staring at her without blinking. After a long while, he raised his hand and gently touched the bandage on her forehead. "Little sister, does it hurt?" Perhaps because he hadn't spoken in so long, his voice was still a bit hoarse, but it wasn't unpleasant at all. It was actually very soothing. Still, Chloe was stunned. Vincent was actually talking to her. Not only was she startled, but even Mrs. Vance, who had just pushed the door open to walk in, widened her eyes in disbelief. Was that Vincent speaking just now? She lost her usual composure. "Vincent, can you say a few more words to Mom?" Vincent merely glanced at her, then turned his head back to continue staring at Chloe's wound, stubbornly refusing to open his mouth again. Chloe immediately felt a bit awkward. She wanted to comfort her but didn't know what to say. "Mother, just now, Mrs. Vance shook her head, her eyes red. "It's fine, take it slow. Vincent needs time." She didn't say anything more. Martha, standing behind her, stepped in right on time holding a lunchbox. It was time for lunch. Martha mentioned that the incident in the alley had been thoroughly investigated. It was just a gang of street thugs who had heard the Vance family was wealthy and gotten greedy. Among them was even a student from their school. Those young men were all of age to bear criminal responsibility, so there was no way they were escaping prison time. As for the student, he had already faced disciplinary action and was expelled. Chloe nodded, her eyes resting on Vincent, who was quietly eating his food. Who would have thought that in her previous life, just because of a fleeting malicious thought from those societal scums, someone as good as him had been dragged into the abyss? Fortunately, in this life, he was still safe. Seeing that she hadn't touched her chopsticks, Vincent tilted his head to look at her. "Little sister, eat." Chloe snapped out of her daze and picked up some food for him. "You eat too." Right after they finished eating, Vincent was caught by a nurse who rushed in and dragged him back to his room. Only then did Chloe realize he had sneaked over from another hospital room. Before leaving, he rubbed her head. "Little sister, get well soon." Just those few simple words moved the Vance family members present in the room to the point of red, teary eyes. Even Martha secretly wiped the corners of her eyes. After Vincent left, Mrs. Vance still didn't leave. She just stood rooted to the spot, watching his retreating figure. Today, she wasn't wearing makeup. It was as if she had reeled in all her usual sharpness, making her look much gentler. Vincent wasn't like this before. He used to be a very sensible boy, calm, and much more outstanding than his peers. Back then, everyone praised him as a young genius, not an autistic mute. Mrs. Vance sat down next to Chloe, tears welling up in her eyes. It's all because of that accident 4 years ago. Chloe froze as Mrs. Vance continued the story. Vincent once had a younger sister named Valerie. Valerie was the daughter of Mr. Vance's biological younger brother. That year, Mr. Vance and his brother's family all passed away in a tragic accident. The entire Vance Corporation was left for Mrs. Vance to shoulder alone. Valerie was also brought home by her and raised as her own daughter. During that time, the Vance family went through immense difficulties. Losing its pillar, the Vance Corporation was like a piece of fat meat displayed in the middle of a crowd. Everyone wanted a bite. Mrs. Vance had to become tougher, her methods increasingly ruthless. Naturally, she also made quite a few enemies. 4 years ago, the 2 Vance children were kidnapped. Valerie, who was only 6 at the time, saw her brother being beaten and rushed over, biting hard onto the kidnapper's hand and refusing to let go. The thug flew into a rage, swinging a club down on the little girl's head, blow after blow. Vincent witnessed the entire horrific process with his own eyes. After being rescued, he never smiled again, nor did he open his mouth to say another word. Mrs. Vance tried every possible method, but it was all in vain. Out of options, she followed the advice of her friends and tried adopting another little sister. Mrs. Vance stood up and walked to the window. She mentioned that Chloe wasn't the first child to be brought home. It's been a very long time since Vincent was this close to anyone. He really likes you. A week later, Chloe was discharged from the hospital and returned to the Vance family home. The attitude of everyone around her had noticeably changed. If previously they saw her as an adopted child who was dispensable and could be sent away at any time, now they treated her as the true young lady of the Vance family. But her study schedule wasn't reduced at all. In fact, it was even more packed than before. According to Mrs. Vance, in the future, you must enter the Vance Corporation. Without real capability, how can you command the respect and obedience of others? The people in the Vance family were astonished to hear this. The looks they gave Chloe were both probing and guarded. She didn't have time to overthink it. She just nervously looked over at Vincent, afraid he would be unhappy about this arrangement. But she saw him resting his chin on his hand, looking at her, and stammering, "Little sister, don't be afraid. You're the best." Looking at his sparkling eyes, Chloe felt a sting in her nose and nodded vigorously. "Yes." Mrs. Vance's eyes also grew gentle. "Vincent, you must work hard too. Be careful, or Chloe might surpass you. Who knows, maybe in the future you'll have to rely on your little sister to protect you." "No way." Hearing this, Vincent frantically jumped to his feet. "I will protect my little sister." He even immediately performed a martial arts routine right on the spot. Ever since the incident at school, Vincent had taken his martial arts lessons even more seriously. Chloe and Mrs. Vance looked at each other and burst into laughter. Looking at his flushed, anxious face, Chloe curled her lips into a smile. Mrs. Vance had once said that Vincent having her was his blessing. In this life, wasn't coming to the Vance family her blessing too? Time flew by very quickly. Under the Vance family's dedicated cultivation, Chloe became the perfect kid in the mouths of many parents. On the school's honor roll, her name would occasionally appear next to Vincent's, who was in a higher grade at the time. In contrast, Lily Owen, who had been a top student in their previous life, was now too busy playing and enjoying herself to make it onto the honor roll even once. As for Oliver, he was a poor student in both lives, so there was no need to even mention him. Furthermore, the relationship between the Vance and Owen families was already lukewarm. It seemed that in this life, Chloe and Oliver were destined to have no crossing paths. Only sometimes, when she stood looking at the ranking board, she would catch a glimpse of Oliver standing behind the crowd out of the corner of her eye, his gaze dark and unfathomable. "Brother, what are you looking at? Our names aren't up there," Lily would ask, her face full of confusion. "Nothing." By the time Chloe turned her head again, he would have already pulled Lily away. During those passing days, Chloe celebrated her 18th birthday and prepared to take the college entrance exam. As for Vincent, 3 years ago he had accepted an offer from an overseas university, and he was currently studying abroad. On the day of her college entrance exam, despite Chloe refusing multiple times, Vincent still dropped his research project and flew overnight back to the country just to take her to the exam. My little sister's matters are the most important. Chloe had no choice but to let him have his way. After finishing the final exam, she walked out of the school gates. From afar, she saw Vincent leaning against the car, wearing a black tracksuit. His striking appearance attracted quite a few glances from the surroundings. Her intention to keep a low profile instantly vanished. Sure enough, wherever Vincent was, it was impossible not to cause a stir. He was no longer the mute boy who had been mocked by others all those years ago. Now, he carried a noble aura. Just a passing glance was enough to make the passing girl's ears blush red. She hurriedly walked over and urged him, "Let's go." Although Vincent didn't quite understand, he still obediently took the backpack from her hands. "Are you not happy that I came to pick you up?" Chloe didn't have the time to explain, so she just hurriedly pushed him into the car. "No, it's not that. Didn't we have plans with our friends? We'll get talked about if we're late." They had arranged to meet up with a few childhood friends, both to celebrate his return to the country and to celebrate her finishing the college entrance exam. After the gathering, someone suggested heading out to the racetrack for a few laps just for fun. Since Chloe and Vincent weren't busy, they tagged along. At the racetrack, a small-scale recreational racing tournament was taking place. "Who's the winner?" a friend asked in surprise, looking up at the big screen. "Oliver? He's back in the country too? And he's racing cars? Is he even any good?" Oliver's academic performance had always been average. That year, just like Vincent, he didn't take the college entrance exam. The difference was that he went abroad just to buy a degree. Nevertheless, as the heir to the Owen Corporation, everyone still recognized him. For a moment, all eyes were glued to the track. As if to answer their doubts, a flashy, bright red race car zoomed across the finish line. The man stepped out of the car, narrowing his eyes as he soaked in the cheers of the audience. After not seeing him for a few years, he had shed his youthful immaturity and was looking more and more like the Oliver from their previous life. From the family seating area, a girl lifted her skirt and ran out hurriedly. She threw her arms around him and planted a kiss on his cheek. "Oliver, you were so cool." The relationship between the two of them was crystal clear without anything needing to be said. In her previous life, as the adopted daughter of the Owen family, Chloe had faced quite a few obstacles to be with Oliver. In this life, it was unclear what he had told his parents, but Lily no longer carried the title of an adopted daughter. To the outside world, she was merely introduced as a friend's daughter, temporarily staying with them. It seemed he had really put a lot of thought into it. Now, seeing a handsome man standing next to a beautiful girl made the atmosphere explode even more. A friend snorted. "Looks like this racetrack has been completely bought out by the Owen family today. Let's go, let's find somewhere else." Chloe withdrew her gaze, preparing to leave with the group. Suddenly, a commotion erupted in front of them. Oliver, holding Lily's hand, walked over surrounded by a crowd. The two groups thus unexpectedly ran into each other. Oliver's gaze cut through the crowd and landed on Chloe. A flash of amazement flickered in the depths of his eyes. He froze for a moment and then, as if wanting to avoid suspicion, let go of the hand that had been holding Lily's. "Oliver," Lily called out in dissatisfaction, then turned to glare at Chloe. "Chloe Vance, what are you doing here?" She looked Chloe up and down. Having not seen each other for a while, the way she looked at Chloe was suddenly filled with hostility. Chloe was still feeling baffled when Lily continued, "Don't tell me you heard Oliver came back to the country, so you purposely ran over here to watch him race?" Hearing this, Oliver paused. His gaze feigned indifference as it swept over Chloe, as if to say, "Just as I thought." Chloe was speechless. Was she really that free? Vincent also frowned slightly. He stepped forward, his tall frame completely shielding her behind his back. Seeing this action, Oliver's eyes darkened. He finally spoke up, his tone nonchalant. "Chloe, Lily speaks her mind. Don't take it to heart." Lily stomped her foot in protest, refusing to accept it. "Oliver, why are you being so polite to her? Who knows if she followed us on purpose?" "Lily, that's enough," Oliver gently interrupted. His gaze unconsciously drifted back toward Chloe, who was standing behind Vincent. "Even if it's true, don't ruin a girl's reputation." He suddenly realized with astonishment that after not seeing her for a few years, Chloe had changed immensely. The graceful demeanor cultivated by the Vance family was entirely different from the petty temperament that Lily possessed. It was a level of elegance Lily couldn't even begin to compare to. "Young Master Owen, you better keep your precious little sister in check. Don't let her bite just anyone she sees," scoffed a friend in the group who clearly disliked the Owen siblings' behavior. "Chloe is here to celebrate finishing her college entrance exams, not to watch, well, childish recreational games like this." The sarcastic tone was completely unconcealed. "What do you mean by that?" Lily immediately glared. "Oliver just won first place, and you dare call it a childish game?" Oliver's face darkened. He had just been soaking in the cheers of victory, and now he was being openly mocked. It was inevitable that a fire of anger would flare up in his heart. "Young Master Vance, it's rare for us to run into each other at a place like this," Oliver said, directly ignoring the others as his eyes locked intently onto Vincent. "I haven't quite had my fill just now." "Interested in racing a lap?" Vincent frowned and was about to step forward, but Chloe quickly grabbed his hand and shook her head. She didn't want to get tangled up with Oliver. Seeing her reaction, Oliver sneered. "If you don't have the guts, then forget it." His tone was incredibly provocative. The atmosphere seemed to freeze. The expressions of Chloe's friends were quite grim, but no one dared to accept the challenge on Vincent's behalf. They all knew that Vincent hadn't touched a race car in many years. As for Chloe, she calmly let go of his hand. Vincent raised his hand and gently rubbed her head. "Want to see me win?" She nodded, smiling at him. "Go for it." Vincent turned and walked toward the track, not even bothering to give Oliver a single glance. Oliver had never been so blatantly disregarded by anyone before. His face turned so dark with fury that it was practically dripping. "Stop putting on an act." He squeezed the words out through gritted teeth, then strode toward his own car with a thunderous expression. On the track, the starting gun went off. Oliver's signature bright red race car immediately shot forward like an arrow, leaving Vincent's black car a significant distance behind. The roar of the engines was deafening. If some people don't have what it takes, they should just go back to being a good little student. "Stop trying to show off just to save face," Lily said, shooting a triumphant look at Chloe. "It's only just begun." "What are you in such a rush to be smug about?" one of Chloe's friends retorted. "He fell behind right out of the gate. Is he really dreaming of catching up to Oliver?" Someone nearby immediately chimed in to support Lily. Chloe's friends stomped their feet in anger, but didn't know how to shoot back. Chloe simply watched the track in silence. That was until they reached a high-speed curve. The black car maintained its breakneck speed right up to the absolute edge of the turn point before slamming on the brakes. Executing a textbook-perfect drift, it seamlessly overtook the red car and dashed across the finish line first. The entire racetrack fell dead silent. Lily was also stunned into silence. In the crowd, someone hesitated and muttered softly, "That cornering technique looks really familiar. It looks like last year's triple major tournament champion, God W." His voice was very quiet, lacking total certainty. Chloe remained silent, her face devoid of emotion. At 11 years old, Vincent had already won the International Youth Championship Cup and was hailed as a young racing prodigy. Although he had taken a hiatus for a while, he had picked everything back up over the past few years. Last year, he had even swept the 3 major championships. It was just that he lived a very private life and never showed his face, so very few people knew his true identity. Vincent pushed the car door open, stepped out, and walked straight up to Chloe. He held out his hand. "Little sister, let's go home." "Okay." Chloe smiled and linked her arm through his. Behind them was the sound of Lily's flustered voice trying to offer comfort, and Oliver's face, contorted with sheer rage. In the blink of an eye, the college entrance exam results were announced. Chloe was the top scorer in the nation. She wasn't surprised, but Mrs. Vance and Vincent were overjoyed. They said that once her university acceptance letter arrived, they would take her abroad for a vacation. However, Chloe told them she still had many uncompleted courses to focus on. Vincent frowned. "Chloe, you've been too stressed lately. You should go out and relax a bit," Vincent told her. "Mrs. Vance also chimed in. "No matter what happens, the Vance family will always be your anchor. Do you understand?" Chloe froze slightly. She suddenly realized that ever since her rebirth, she had been pushing herself too hard. The fact that Oliver hadn't firmly chosen her upon her return had hurt her much more deeply than she had thought. Because of that, she had been almost draconian with herself, trying her absolute best to gain the Vance family's recognition, terrified that she would be abandoned once again. Looking at the 2 pairs of eyes filled with genuine concern in front of her, her heart warmed. In the end, she gave in to their wishes. On the day they headed to the airport, they ran into the Owen family. The atmosphere over there seemed rather gloomy. The Owen parents looked utterly grim, and Oliver's expression was cold and detached. As for Lily, she was following closely beside him, looking depressed and, for once, staying completely silent. "I just heard the news that Lily cheated on her college entrance exam and had her results invalidated. Now the Owen family has become the laughingstock of high society," Mrs. Vance said with a smile, withdrawing her gaze. "They're too embarrassed to face it, so they're rushing to send her abroad before the school year even starts to sweep the whole thing under the rug." Chloe was a bit surprised. Was Lily out of her mind? What was she thinking, daring to do something so reckless? With her situation, she just needed to obediently go abroad and buy a degree. Wouldn't that have been enough? Why take the risk? Chloe shook her head, too lazy to give it another thought. What did it have to do with her anyway? As she was getting ready to board the plane, she felt a gaze lingering on her. She turned her head to look and immediately saw Oliver standing not too far away. Caught staring by her, he froze for a second, his eyes filled with complex emotions. "Congratulations on being the top scorer." "Thank you." Chloe turned her head away coldly. Oliver paused for another beat, then quickly stepped forward, seemingly wanting to chase after her. Chloe. But Lily grabbed onto him and refused to let go, glaring at Chloe with venomous eyes. Oliver, she doesn't even care about you. Let it go. Let go of me. Oliver shook off her hand without holding back. Lily stumbled and fell to the ground. All the grievances she had pent up for so long finally exploded. She couldn't understand why the brother who had always cherished and spoiled her had suddenly become so cold lately. You regret it, don't you? But you were clearly the one who didn't want her in the first place. That single sentence made Oliver's footsteps freeze rigidly in place. It was Chloe's turn to board. She didn't look back, following the Vance family through the boarding gate. Hawaii, here we come. The days passed bit by bit. Entering college, Chloe constantly absorbed new knowledge and gradually learned how to transform and utilize the resources she held. In her sophomore year, she began forming her own research team. Every member of the team was outstanding, not losing out to her in the slightest. To support her, Mrs. Vance handed her full operational control over a small-scale subsidiary of the Vance Corporation. The team's very first project achieved excellent results, pushing the subsidiary to new heights. After that, several research breakthroughs were produced in succession, causing the subsidiary to repeatedly come close to catching up with the main corporation itself. As a rising star in the business world, she began to catch the eye of many powerful factions. When she graduated, Vincent returned to the country and officially joined the Vance Corporation's headquarters. Many people were waiting to watch a power struggle between the eldest son of the Vance family and the adopted daughter. They assumed that with Vincent returning and going straight into the headquarters while she only held a subsidiary, she would definitely be dissatisfied. But she wasn't at all. On the contrary, she put all her effort into supporting him. With the backing of Chloe and Mrs. Vance, combined with his own outstanding abilities, Vincent quickly established a firm foothold at the headquarters. At that same time, the Vance Corporation released an announcement. The subsidiary she controlled would officially spin off from the conglomerate and be renamed the Moonlight Group. That night, fireworks atop the highest floor of the Moonlight Group blazed brightly all night long. Vincent stood beside her and said, Chloe, you have to remember, the Vance Corporation will forever be the Moonlight Group's backing. Not necessarily, Chloe blinked, teasing him. Who knows, maybe in the future, the Moonlight Group will be the Vance Corporation's backing, brother. Vincent chuckled. Yeah, my little sister is the best. She tilted her head, looking down at the sea of neon lights below her feet, and smiled softly. That was the deal between her and Mrs. Vance. The Moonlight Group belonged to her, and she would always stand behind Vincent to support him. Back then, Mrs. Vance had raised an eyebrow and asked, Are you sure you only want a subsidiary? I thought you would want more. For example, half of the Vance Corporation. Who knows? I might even agree. Chloe had shaken her head. No, I want something that belongs entirely to me. Something that belongs completely to Chloe Vance. Having lived 2 lives, she firmly believed that only the things completely in her own hands were things she could truly control. As an outstanding alumna, she was invited by her old school to participate in an equestrian and archery competition, representing them in the tournament. To her, matches like these were just rare moments of relaxation amidst her busy life and work. Unsurprisingly, she easily won the championship. The moment she stepped off the podium, people from the school surrounded her ring after ring. She had a hard time escaping, only to be called back again. Chloe. Oliver had also come. Come to think of it, this was the first time they had met again since he returned to the country to inherit the Owen Corporation. Ignoring Lily, who was standing next to him with a face full of resentment, he walked up to Chloe. Looking at the equestrian and archery outfit she was wearing, he softly sighed. You are getting more and more outstanding. In his eyes, there was amazement, loss, and also regret. She suddenly found that look very familiar. In her previous life, she had attended an evening banquet with him. At that time, Lily, holding the status of the Vance family's adopted daughter, had stepped onto the stage to play a piano piece. The way Oliver looked at Lily then was exactly the same as how he was looking at Chloe now. She almost burst out laughing. Even after being reborn, Oliver's preferences hadn't changed. He always liked the things he couldn't have. Looking at the man standing before her with an affectionate gaze, she nodded politely as a greeting, but her footsteps didn't stop. He refused to let her go, blocking her path with a gloomy expression. What if I said we could start over? You would still be my little sister. Chloe couldn't understand it. Did he think too highly of himself? She coldly interrupted him. I don't understand what CEO Owen is talking about. If you have too much free time, you might as well worry more about the Owen Corporation. Oliver's face immediately darkened. As far as she knew, during this period, the Owen Corporation was plunging into a crisis, with its stock plummeting. In her previous life, the Owen Corporation had also gone through a similar ordeal, but Oliver had been too prideful to ask for help. Back then, relying on their childhood affection, she had begged Vincent, who was already known as Vincent the Reaper, by then to lend a hand, which was the only reason they received support. In this life, since Oliver had been reborn, he had laid out his plans early on. Unfortunately, the foundation of the Owen Corporation had long since rotted away. This time, without the Vance family propping him up, and with his own limited abilities, he couldn't hold it together. The Owen Corporation was in grave danger. Too lazy to say anything more to him, she turned straight around to leave. Chloe Vance. Lily, who had been ignored from the very beginning, seemed to go crazy. She lunged forward to block Chloe's path. Oliver and I are getting engaged soon. Can you stay away from us? Stop showing up all the time. However, Lily was violently shoved away by Oliver. What are you going crazy for? If you can't be of any help, then stop causing me more trouble. Oliver furrowed his brows tightly. Lily, having been pushed to the ground, looked at him in disbelief. Seeing the sheer disgust and annoyance in his eyes, the last sliver of hope in her heart completely shattered. I'm causing trouble? Lily suddenly laughed like a maniac, pointing at Oliver and then pointing at Chloe. Oliver, you regret it, don't you? What? Do you think she would still be willing to come back to you? She is Chloe Vance now. Who do you think you are? This time, you are the one who chose me first. What gives you the right to get tired of me first? Chloe finally understood. It turned out that Lily had also been reborn. No wonder she was acting so crazy. Shut up. Oliver panicked, shooting Chloe a quick glance before pulling Lily to her feet. I apologize. My little sister has made a fool of herself in front of you. What did you just call me? Little sister? We're about to get engaged and you call me your little sister? Lily refused to let it go, screaming at the top of her lungs. Oliver frowned, but he still suppressed his anger and tried to explain to her softly. Lily completely ignored him, and their argument grew increasingly heated. Chloe pretended not to understand anything and quickly left the venue. It wasn't until she was sitting in Vincent's car that she finally let out a heavy sigh of relief. He chuckled and asked, "What's wrong? Is there a ghost chasing you from behind?" She nodded seriously. There really is, and it's super scary. Wasn't it, to run into them even while attending an even thou unlucky? The Moonlight Group developed robustly, and coupled with cross-sector collaborations with the Vance Corporation, the two sides joined forces to achieve brilliant results. Chloe became a rising star in the industry, her name synonymous with success. Now, when people mentioned her, she was no longer just the Vance family's adopted daughter, but Chloe Vance of the Moonlight Group. On the contrary, the Owen Corporation was visibly declining. Rumor had it that they had to sell off quite a few assets, even transferring some of their shares. Even though out of gratitude for her upbringing in her previous life, Chloe had restrained the Vance Corporation and Moonlight Group from taking the opportunity to suppress the Owen Corporation like other families did. They could still barely hold on to their foundation. The next time she saw Oliver was at a project bidding event. She sat in the judges' row, while Oliver, bringing Lily along, sat in the audience below. He looked at her from afar, then awkwardly averted his gaze. The Owen Corporation, once a top-tier name, was now just one of the many bidding entities. Chloe withdrew her gaze, paying it no more mind. During the break, she went to the restroom. She was washing her hands when Lily quietly appeared behind her. "Let's talk." Chloe gave her a side glance, dried her hands, and walked into the lounge next door. Lily followed her in. "Actually, you were reborn too, weren't you?" Lily asked. "Does it matter?" Chloe asked in return. Lily paused, her voice suddenly rising. "Oliver abandoned you and chose me, and you really don't care?" Chloe's expression remained indifferent. "Haha. He pushed you into that damn Vance household. He knew full well how fake Mrs. Vance is, and Vincent isn't a good person either." "Watch your words," Chloe warned. "Now, you're defending the Vance family?" Lily sneered at her. "Ah, I forgot. You are the eldest young lady of the Vance family now. To make the Vance family pamper you like a princess, you've got some tricks up your sleeve. Affection is a two-way street. How you treat others is how they will treat you in return," Chloe replied calmly. "Ha, exactly. You know what? What I hate the most is that aloof, holier-than-thou look of yours. Why is it that in our past life, you were the one taken away by the Owen family, got to grow up in such a happy environment, and even married Oliver? And what about this life? You were clearly sent to a hellish place like the Vance family, yet you are still loved by them. Even Oliver's eyes were stolen by you. Why? Where exactly did I lose?" Looking at Lily, who was on the verge of madness, Chloe took a step back. "You're misunderstanding things. Oliver only likes you. Weren't they about to get engaged?" Hearing this, Lily threw her head back and laughed loudly. Likes me? Likes me? But the white moonlight that he can never forget was never me. It's the original owner of this necklace. It's you, Chloe Vance! She violently yanked the key pendant necklace off her neck, revealing a smile that was uglier than crying. Do you remember? When we were little, at the orphanage gates, you saved a little boy who almost drowned. He was dressed so luxuriously. Later, when you went to find the orphanage director, when his family arrived, I pretended to be you and accepted this necklace. He said he would come back for me. I waited and waited, only to wait until the day he brought you back to the Owen family. I couldn't stand seeing you happy, so I deliberately dropped hints in front of Oliver. He was moved too. It's a pity that later Lily gritted her teeth. I was merely tricked by someone into leaking a bit of inside information, and Mrs. Vance already wanted to kick me out. And Vincent, that psycho, almost beat me to death. He did it on purpose. He hated me for abandoning him in that alley. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have run out, and nothing would have happened to me. Luckily, everything could be done over. But now, Oliver says he doesn't want to get engaged to me anymore. Clearly in the past, he only had eyes for me. At this moment, Chloe completely understood what Oliver's words from his previous life, "If only I had found you earlier," truly meant. It was a pity that Lily was still too naive. The person Oliver could never forget was never Chloe Vance. What he loved was the young lady of the Vance family who was out of his reach, regardless of whether that person was Chloe Vance or Lily Owen. In their previous life, Lily was the young lady of the Vance family. Even though she wasn't favored, the aura and cultivation she received were real. She was the bright moon hanging high in the sky. In this life, their identities were swapped, and that unreachable halo had shifted to Chloe. Chloe looked behind Lily. Without her knowing when, Oliver had already been standing there, his face full of shock. Chloe shook her head. "You're wrong." "What am I wrong about? What gives you the right to stand up there and judge me?" "Lily!" Oliver's furious roar cut her off. "You lied to me, you bitch. If I hadn't chosen you, how could I have fallen into this state?" Oliver's eyes were bloodshot. He panted heavily, glaring at Lily as if he wanted to swallow her alive. A storm was brewing. Chloe hurriedly stepped outside, conveniently pulling the lounge door shut behind her. At the end of the corridor, Vincent stood backlit. He seemed to have been waiting for her for a long time but didn't show the slightest bit of impatience. Chloe walked quickly to his side. "Brother, let's go." Lily stole the Owen Corporation's internal documents and handed them over to a competitor. The Owen family fell into internal chaos and nearly collapsed. All because Oliver refused to marry her and had even discussed with his parents sending her off for a marriage of convenience. Lily went completely insane. With the mentality that, if I can't have it, I'll destroy it, she chose the extreme path of defecting to their rival. Less than 2 months before the bidding event, Chloe had heard this news. She wasn't surprised at all by her stealing the documents. Whether in their past life or this life, Lily's true nature remained exactly the same. Chloe had just laughed it off after hearing Vincent tell the story. She didn't expect another incident to occur in the Owen family. Oliver was hospitalized after being stabbed by Lily. Rumor had it that on that day, Lily hadn't managed to run far before being caught by the Owen family. The Owen family was soft-hearted. They originally intended to talk to her and persuade her to turn over a new leaf. Who would have thought that Lily not only wouldn't listen, but also pulled out a knife and lunged at Mrs. Owen, the person who had loved her since childhood? "It's all because of this damn old woman. If it weren't for you scheming for Oliver, how could he bear to marry me off to someone else?" Oliver lunged forward to shield his mother. Even if Lily had wanted to pull the knife back, it was too late. Now, Oliver was lying in the hospital, his life hanging by a thread. The Owen family was no longer soft-hearted at all. They handed her straight over to the police. Stealing trade secrets and attempted murder Lily's remaining half of her life would likely only be spent in prison. A year later, the Moonlight Group was officially listed on the overseas market. The Vance family organized a grand celebratory banquet for Chloe, inviting countless prominent figures from political and business circles to attend. Chloe wore a perfect smile, deftly conversing with the big shots. Surrounding her were words of congratulation and praise. While casually sweeping her gaze toward the corner of the room, she saw Oliver. He stood there, his entire body exuding an air of awkwardness and constraint. The suit he wore was still finely tailored, but its style was long outdated. There were even visible signs of wear and tear on the cuffs and lapels. Chloe only took one look before withdrawing her gaze. The only reason the Owen family could attend this banquet was because Mrs. Owen had personally come to beg for an invitation. Galas like this gathered countless prominent figures, and they wanted to use this opportunity to cling to a sliver of hope. Mrs. Vance had only nodded out of consideration for their past as neighbors. Nowadays, the Owen family was drowning in debt and had long since moved out of the villa district. When it was time to dance, Chloe turned down quite a few invitations. Taking advantage of the gradually thinning crowd, she walked out onto the balcony alone to get some fresh air. The night wind, carrying a hint of a chill, brushed softly against her face. She was lost in thought when Oliver quietly approached her without her noticing. "Chloe?" He looked at her with infatuation. "You were reborn too, weren't you? We were together for so many years, you can't fool me." The night wind seemed to pause for a second. His voice was very soft. "Clearly, back at the orphanage, you could have actively acknowledged me. Why didn't you?" Chloe turned around and looked at him calmly. "I just wanted to choose a path without you. And didn't you do the exact same thing?" Those words were like a cold blade stabbing straight into Oliver's heart. He stumbled backward, his face as pale as paper under the moonlight. His lips trembled, wanting to say something to refute her, but he found he couldn't utter a single syllable. That was right. He was the one who had chosen a different path first. What right did he have to question her? He turned away in a daze, his posture hunched, as if in that moment all his strength had been completely drained away. Chloe didn't withdraw her gaze until his figure completely disappeared. "Chloe." A slightly hoarse voice rang out from behind. Chloe turned her head to look at Vincent. He walked over, discreetly glancing in the direction Oliver had just left, and handed her a glass of warm honey water. "Are you tired?" he asked softly, his voice holding nothing but pure concern. Chloe took the glass, looking at his handsome face, and then looked inside the grand hall where Mrs. Vance was elegantly chatting with the guests. "No, I'm not tired." She shook her head, curled her lips into a soft smile, and gently rested her head on Vincent's shoulder. "You know what? My life this time around is truly very good. She had a mother who, although strict, always respected her. She had a brother who always stood in front of her, shielding her from the storm. And the warmth in this moment was within arm's reach, incredibly real. All of that suffering and betrayal from the past had become history. In this life, she wished for herself to shine brilliant."
That's a wrap! This story proves that being spoiled ruins people, while tough discipline creates diamonds. Chloe showed that your skills are your only safety net. Comment below, like, and subscribe. See ya!